So let's go to the NBA Final Four.
Yep.
Let's start out West. Because I think what's happening in the West is very interesting. You have two, let's say, maligned franchises, maybe, for different reasons. The Suns were like ahead of in our lifetime. You know, the Suns were ahead of their time, and
Yeah.
if they did a little bit more of that, then they probably get a ring under Steve Nash. But now they're more like an old school '90s basketball team with a point guard, a shooting guard, good solid wings, you know, and a good big man with defined roles, and it's working because that style of basketball works. It's the analytics nerds will say it's not as efficient, but it's more efficient. It's better basketball.
They have a stretch four, at least. They do have a stretch four. We give them that. They have a stretch four. They don't have a traditional big man, but yeah.
And then you have the Clippers, who, I mean, they're gonna clip, man. Like Clippers, you know, probably
they like getting down 0-2. They love getting down 0-2.
Yeah, but CP3 is coming back for game 3, and we haven't heard anything about Kawhi. I don't see them pulling the cat out of their hat or the rabbit out of the hat this time.
That's been weird though, because they've been saying Achilles or ACL injury. Like, what else can you do to an ACL? You can't bruise it. You can just tear it. Like, right? Like, what else can you do to it? So it's like they've been like, it's an ACL injury. Like, all right, just say he tore it and we'll move on with our lives. Like, I don't understand why they're either withholding that information or just being vague about it like they have been. Like, I don't think he's going to come back. So, like, just say it.
You know, it's just like the NFL. It's like, hold on, they may just have to take that extra time preparing, an extra game plan. Like, no, bro.
No.
They're going to do what they do, man. So we had game 1, which was a wild shootout. The Suns dominated for the most part. Then towards the end, the Clippers got going. And we were like, oh, man, Devin Booker has arrived. Like, 40-point triple-double in his Western Conference Finals debut. Paul George kept everything going, cooking. And then in game 2, we saw both of them kind of slow down, but they both hit big shots in clutch moments to put their teams up. Obviously, Paul George went 5 for 10 for 3 and 1 for 8, or 5 for 10 from the free throw line and 1 for 8 from 3.
And 0 for 2 from the free. I went 0 for 2 from the free throw line to seal the game. We got to put that out there. Can't miss that.
So just looking at the series, looking at the injuries, looking at just the erraticness of Paul George and Devin Booker kind of coming back down to earth, but still being good. What do you see happening in the Western Conference Finals?
I mean, I think Phoenix sweeps them. They're already down 0-2, and now their best player, Chris Paul, comes back. Like, MVP. I know that. Yeah, I mean, at least MVP of the playoffs so far for sure. I mean, him and Trae Young basically. It's bad. The Clippers aren't. I don't think they're going to be able to dig their way out of this one. The ball moves too fast in Phoenix. They all know their roles. Two things from this series that this series highlights, at least, are that the mid-range shot is back. Booker and PG went back and forth with a couple of them. It's funny, like in the playoffs, they lock down the paint because they let you get a little more physical. They run people off the three-point line. So what's open? The mid-range shot. So it's like it's cool that that's back and that's a valued skill in basketball again. That's Chris Paul's favorite shot. And then the big men. It's weird because the Clippers, I thought you'd think Serge Ibaka would have been great for them right now. Zubac been playing the best basketball of his life in these playoffs, I thought. And same with Ayton. So it's cool that like two things that people thought were dead are back. The big man and the mid-range shot. Phoenix, I mean, we got to start with we also have to mention that. Do we call it the Valley Oop? It's not, there's the alley oop.
I've seen the alley oop. Let's go Valley Oop. I like Valley Oop.
Yeah, it's cooler than just the alley oop. So, first off, that was the most beautiful pass I've ever seen from Jay Crowder. Like that was beautiful.
If I was out there, I promise. If I was Zubac, it gets picked off. Jay Crowder knows if he throws it my way, I'm picking it off.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny if DeAndre Ayton doesn't touch that, it probably still goes in the basket. Like he probably makes that shot.
Well, what about Devin Booker's screen?
Yeah, and with a broken nose, he takes one. He took a hit. Like Zubac, he knocked that had to hurt, man.
And that's the stuff that I think that we miss as guys watching and talking, that the players were saying about Devin Booker 2-3 years ago. It's like, no, man, he plays the game the right way. He does what he needs to do. He just doesn't have the horses with him to win the race. It's not a Devin Booker problem, because if you look
and he got some dog to him too.
yes,
Like just like you were saying about Trae Young, and like I was saying about Embiid. Like he has some. Can I curse on here or no?
yeah, I don't care.
He got some fuck you energy. Like he has some like I know he was yelling at Jokic at one point, and he was getting into it with somebody else. But like Devin Booker has some like I'm gonna hit the shot in your face and then tell you about it afterwards. Like there's some
He got into like a little pushing thing with like Pat Bev after the game because he was tired of Pat Bevin. But I'll say, Pat Bev.
I would be too.
Pat Bev played one of his better Pat Bev games yesterday. One of his fouls was a great block on Booker. They called it a foul. I get it. Booker is like ascended into superstar. So yeah, you get that call on Pat Bev. Kind of a reputation call. He takes the charge and he forces the ball out of bounds. And here's the thing about that. The two savvy things about those two last plays was he called for the instant replay.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Said, no. And I don't know how I felt about that. I think that you don't have challenges. It's up to the officials to make a decision. And from everything I've heard and read, they're supposed to review egregious calls. Neither one of those calls were egregious. You made 2 minutes last like 30 minutes. Some of us on the East Coast want to go to bed at a decent hour or do some other things. And I just think instant replay, man, as and I'm going to steal something from Ryan Russillo. It doesn't get it right. Okay. We don't get it right.
That play specifically. But even after you looked at that play in slow motion? So we're talking about the play where Booker has to go win the game. He dribbles to his right. Pat Bev hits the ball, and they kind of both push it out of bounds, but Booker's hand was on it last. What did you think about the actual outcome, even though it was technically the right call?
Add on Pat Bev. Like, come on, man.
Exactly. It's the way basketball works. He forced the ball out of bounds. I don't care if it slightly rolled off Devin Booker's finger. Pat Bev pushed it out of bounds.
It's like when you're driving, like you may be going to the basket, and then like you're going up, and they get your wrist, and the ball goes out on you, but the ref missed the foul call. It's like, nah, we're gonna stay here because I missed the foul, but you're gonna get the ball back. You know, it's
right.
It's one of those unspoken things that everybody understands, but then you got the nerds who come infiltrate sports, and they want to ruin everything. You know, kind of like in baseball, where when we slow down like a stolen base, he popped up when he was getting up, he's out. No, bro, he beat the tag.
Yeah.
Like, we're never gonna get things.
So that was unfortunate.
Yeah,
that was unfortunate. Yeah, you're right. It definitely slowed the game down for sure. I do like the challenge. Like I like challenges on certain plays. But then even some of them, it's like, all right, it's reversed. They have to jump ball. Like that might not benefit them anyway. They might not even get the ball after all that.
So now I've wasted my challenge and I've lost the ball. I don't like the restrictions on challenging. Like, let me challenge whatever I want to challenge. And when you view that play, watch everything that happens. So even if I'm challenging the ball on who the ball went out on, but there's a foul, call the foul. No matter which way it goes. If you're going to get it right, get it right. And if it takes you 5 minutes to figure it out, go with the original call, man. Like it should be snap things. It should be 30 seconds, a minute or less.
Yeah, so I think you hit it. I think you found the way to fix it. You got to give the officials a shot clock on reviews. You give them what? A minute? You give them 50 seconds? Be like, all right, you have 50 seconds to review this, and then the review TV turns off. I think that's the only way to do it, because then you make instinctual calls and you have to be decisive, right?
Or you have a crew on the floor watching the monitor. So when you come over there, they say, hey, here's what happened. Here's what you need to look for. Here's my recommendation. You got 30 seconds to either overturn me or pick your call. But we're not going to publish what we say. Like as the extra official on the sideline watching it, we won't publish what I say, because then, you get into like scandals and stuff like that. But I'm going to let you all know. I'm going to give you the recommendation so that you can get through it much more quickly.
Yeah. And I will say something that will help this is, as I think everyone who watches basketball heard the news that they're going to stop calling fouls on the illegal shooting motion when people try to jump up into people or the swing through. And I think that'll help too, because it just is another way that players put the game into refs' hands, which we want less of. So I think that'll hopefully eliminate a decision the refs have to make. Because the more decisions refs have to make, the more decisions they're going to get wrong. And I think that a lot of players, like if more people were to play like KD, the game would be better. Like no
Absolutely.
flailing, like play ball, and if you're going to fall down, make it because you actually had to fall down, not because you think it'll get you another call.
But I'll tell you, as a guy who plays men's league basketball, if you know
Yeah.
that you can manipulate the referee, you're an idiot not to do it. Like I know that
Yeah.
if I can't find my jump shot, I'm gonna get to the basket, initiate some contact, just so I can go to the free throw line. If if I'm pulling up for a jump shot and I feel like you're too close, I already shoot with a slight leg kick. I will slightly exaggerate my leg kick, but I know how to fall. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you do those little things, and it's like, okay, let me go get this free throw real quick, give me a little rest, and find the rhythm. Now, I don't play basketball on TV. I play basketball in a gym full of sweaty men. So who cares what the TV product looks like? But as far
Right.
as a TV product, the way that Kevin Durant plays the game, and I'm pretty sure there was a conversation in that series with him and PJ Tucker, like, hey, we're gonna go at it. Let us play. This is how we play. This is what we want to do. I'm not
Yeah.
calling nothing.
It was
Let us
cool.
play.
It was cool. And like you said, like it's such a black eye on the game every time someone goes like this, and so then someone goes like that, and then you look at the replay, and the elbow like comes within 3 inches of their face, but doesn't actually hit them. It's like, oh, are you kidding? Like
It's
it just
ugly.
makes it makes the game a lot worse. And we can go into a lot of Skip Bayless takes, but that's LeBron has had a bad effect on the league like that, among other people.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Wade, he did it
Yeah.
offensively. Kobe did it, drawing the foul on the pump fake.
Wade was a big proponent of going to the basket and kicking you as he drove to the basket, putting his foot out.
I
So
mean, that's why Dirk had to get his revenge in 2011 because what a D Wade did to him in '06.
yeah,
And yeah, I'm happy to see that they're legislating it out of the game. Um, and for the people who are like, well, what is Trae Young and James Harden going to do? They're going to play basketball. They're still great players. They're
yeah,
using they're using it as an advantage because it exists. It's
right,
like the great defenders who used the hand check, they used it because it existed. You take it
yeah.
away, I can still slide my feet. I can still be a nuisance. I just can't hand check as much.
They
But
might not. They might be like 3% worse. They might be
yeah,
just like like Harden might average 31 instead of 35. It's just something like that.
exactly. And the thing is, James Harden still is just a great basketball player, a great shooter, a great distributor. Like he looked like the best point guard in the league at times this season. Like healthy James is going to be fine. Now, I did have an issue with people saying, "Oh, James Harden, another bad closeout game." Bro, he couldn't run the fast break.
He was
If he
hurt.
got a
He was
long
limping around.
rebound, he would walk it up the court or pass it immediately. Like, I'm not going to knock James Harden in this series for that. But let's get back to the final four. So you got Suns in four. I said yesterday Suns in 4 or 5. So yeah, we're right there in the same place. I just don't think the Clippers have a chance because of their franchise. And I like Chris Paul. And my hot take has been Suns Hawks NBA Finals.
Is that your version of the guarantee button?
Absolutely. Suns and Hawks NBA Finals.
Nice, nice. I love it. I love it. I mean, as long as the Suns get there, because that's who. I mean, obviously you have a hometown rooting interest, but like the Suns are my team going forward. I hope Chris Paul finally gets and to the point we have just touched upon. Chris Paul's done a lot less flopping this year. Have you noticed that? He's done a
Yeah,
lot less running into people on the fast break. Where they're running behind him and he backs up into them. He's done a lot less of that. Maybe it's because he's trying not to get hurt, but it's made me like him more. It's just how it is. On the Eastern Conference side, I'd say I'd want Giannis, just because I feel like it's cool when players like Dirk or like just players who've put in the time and gotten the MVPs and have been these great players finally get the ring and the recognition because it's part of our rings culture, like you wanted to talk about. I mean, he won't ever get recognized until he gets there first. So I think it would be Bucks. Suns would be probably my ideal one, but I'd be cool with Suns Hawks too, as long as the Suns get there.
I like what a Suns Hawks finals looks like aesthetically because of what we
Uh,
talked about earlier, like minus my fandom. I don't like watching Giannis play basketball.
Right. It would be a high scoring, nicely passes, shooting. It would be a lot of good skills on display for sure.
Old school versus new school, Trae Young versus Chris Paul. You know, Trae Young, the second coming of Steve Nash, playing in Steve Nash's old city, you know.
Yeah.
Devin Booker, like, finally on that stage. I think that no matter who goes to the NBA Finals, no matter who wins it, as a basketball fan, I walk away happy. I think the NBA has something to definitely root for, because if this playoffs didn't show us anything, is that as star-laden as the NBA is, as much as it's been LeBron, KD, Steph, the league is in great hands. And I think the NBA is shifting more so to the NFL in the sense that, hey, we can promote our league and our players and not necessarily like one or two players to promote the league, because Steph didn't make the playoffs. Braun went out in the first round. AD went out in the first round. KD went out second round, you know, and
Utah just got knocked out. That made things a lot easier.
right. What's his name? Luka got put out first round. Like, all of these stars, Jimmy Butler's out first round. All the people we love are out, and we're still excited to watch basketball because we still have Giannis. It's like, ooh.
real fans, I think, are still excited. I guess there was definitely that narrative that was like, well, this is bad because no one's going to want to watch basketball. Like, well, who did you ask? Like, real fans still are cool with this.
I heard, I was listening to The Herd today, and I think Joy Taylor said that Game 7, Milwaukee and Brooklyn had like one of the highest playoff ratings in a while, and it was like it averaged like over 6 million viewers throughout. So it's like, hey, people are watching basketball. As long as the basketball is good, people are going to watch it. And as you see, we're getting away from. Here's something, Sean. You see that the super team is not as foolproof as we thought it was.
Yeah.
The spread it out, shoot threes, layups, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, is not necessarily the best method of winning because it doesn't work in small spaces. It works over 82 game season because just the numbers will work their way out. But in a 7-game series and 16 wins that you need to win a championship, you're not always going to get that high and low because you don't have time for the variation to correct itself to the mean. And you have to play basketball the way that we learned to play basketball. And guess what? It's a better TV show. Yeah.
So, and sometimes you just got to get a bucket. Sometimes you're going to be 8 feet from the basket. Someone's going to be in New Jersey, and you just got to get a bucket. And that's not none of this drive and kick crap. You're going to have to, you're going to be looking them eye in the eye. You're going to have to shoot over them. It's just how it happens.
How many timely floaters has Trae Young hit like in the playoffs?
Yeah, well, he went cold for a little bit against Philly, but he definitely hit his fair share of them for sure.
And like even that after the Thibault missed free throw, he comes down, he hits the three, and you were in there, and it was like,
yeah, and he didn't necessarily. I don't know what the percentages look like. He didn't have a great 3-point shooting series at all. It wasn't about the three, and it was about him creating space because of the threat of the three, and then him breaking down the defense off the bounce and maybe hitting that mid-range addition to people. So,
bro, once I watched him put Joel Embiid on his hip and then still get the floater off, I go, it's real. It's real. This is not fluky. When you can put the biggest person outside of Boban, the biggest athlete in the league on your hip, and you can still get your floater off, and you're doing that confidently, it's real. So we differ on who wins in the East, but we're not like arguing over it. It's fun now. I mean, the Hawks are playing with house money.